The movie begins with Kara and her friends drinking at her house, after which they have a plan to go to a club. They all drink excessively, and Dinda stumbles to the washroom to vomit. But moments later, a guy named Wisnu follows her in and begins touching her inappropriately. Sensing danger, Dinda tries to push him away, but he becomes aggressive and starts pulling at her clothes. Panicking, she fights back and forcefully shoves him against the glass wall. The next day, when Kara's mom returns home, she notices the front door already open. Uneasy, she steps inside and finds liquor bottles and leftover food scattered on the table. Alarmed, she hurries to Kara's room, only to find it in complete disarray. And the mirror there is shattered too. Worried, she calls Dinda and asks where Kara is. But Dinda says she doesn't know. Kara's mother explains she's been calling non-stop with no answer and asks about the mess in the apartment, to which Dinda says she has no idea but promises to find out. Next, we see Dinda putting up Kara's missing poster on a notice board when Putra, Kara's boyfriend, approaches her and mentions that they haven't spoken since Kara disappeared. He asks if she thinks Kara ran away, and when Dinda asks, "From what?" he replies, "You know how strict her mom is." Dinda points out that he's strict too, and he responds, "That's because I care about Kara." He admits he should have done more to protect Kara, then adds, "It's been a month? Do you think there's still hope?" He finally asks what they did that night, but Dinda snaps, saying she's already told everything to the police. Meanwhile, desperate for answers, Kara's mother visits a psychic named Wang, who flips through a book before looking up solemnly and revealing that her daughter is dead.
Like, comment, subscribe to Recapss Horror.
The next day, Dinda receives a call from Kara's mother. She visits her house and asks how she's been, but Kara's mother simply tells her to fetch a teacup from the kitchen. Dinda heads to the kitchen and picks up a cup to wash, but the water from the tap is murky and foul-smelling. When Dinda returns, Kara's mother takes the cup and thanks her. Dinda asks if it's for Kara, and she confirms it is. Dinda hesitates, saying they don't know what really happened, but Kara's mother simply replies, "I know," before walking away. Next, Kara's mother tells Dinda that she sees her as her own daughter and has always been grateful that Kara had a friend like her. Then, with quiet desperation, she pleads one last time, asking Dinda to tell her where Kara is. Dinda insists she truly doesn't know, but Kara's mother says she's ready for the truth now, and that whatever happened, she just wants Kara to rest in peace. She then asks, "Don't you feel sorry for her?" Dinda asks, "What are you talking about?" And Kara's mother promises that she won't tell anyone, but frustrated, Dinda asks, "If I knew, why wouldn't I tell you?" Then, without another word, Kara's mother silently gets up and heads straight to Kara's room. Worried for her, Dinda goes to the room to check on her, only to find her standing in the bathroom, muttering the names of Kara's friends who were there that night, insisting there's no way any of them know where her daughter is. Dinda promises she'll look for Kara and find her, but Kara's mother says this is all your fault, prompting Dinda to turn and run from the house in a panic. Dinda is on her way back home when Wang asks, "Is her friend sick?" Dinda insists she's not with anyone and asks what she sees, to which Wang asks, "Do you really want to know?" But Dinda says, "Not really," and walks away. But as she leaves, a ghost's reflection is seen standing there. That evening, as Wisnu waits for the elevator, he hears a strange noise behind him. But when he turns around, no one is there. But just as the doors begin to close, he catches a glimpse of a woman standing outside. The elevator starts moving upward, but unexpectedly stops at the 4th floor. And when Wisnu peeks out, he's horrified to see the same woman standing there. He quickly shuts the doors and the elevator continues, only to stop again at the 5th floor. This time, the woman is even closer. Panicked, he closes the door once more, but the elevator stops at the next floor, and the ghost approaches him. He manages to close the door just in time and tries to keep it shut, but soon a shadow appears on the door, and we see the ghost behind him. Terrified, he tries to escape, but the ghost grabs his leg and drags him back inside. His head is trapped between the doors, and the elevator begins to rise, causing his head to be violently severed from his body, and he dies a brutal death. Meanwhile, Dinda heads to the bathroom and notices someone showering behind the curtain. Thinking it's her brother, she asks, "Why are you taking a bath so early in the morning?" But she gets no response. Just then, Ari knocks on the door, telling her to hurry up or he'll be late for school. Dinda is horrified to see Kara's ghost behind the curtain, which calls out her name, prompting Dinda to rush out of the bathroom in fear. Later, Ari asks Dinda what happened to her earlier, but she brushes it off, saying she's totally fine. Ari then points to Wong and says she's staring at them, to which Dinda tells him to ignore her and suggests they leave. She walks away, but realizes Ari is standing beside Wong, so she rushes over and quickly pulls him away from there. As they ride the bus, Ari tells Dinda that Granny gave him something for her, but Dinda tells him to throw it away. Just then, Dinda receives a video on her phone, and to her horror, it's CCTV footage of Wisnu being brutally killed in the elevator. She replays the video, and this time, she notices there's another figure in the footage, a woman in a red dress. Dinda shows Putra the video and asks what he thinks, and he says it could be anything. She tells him, Kara appeared to her last night, and when he asks if she means that's Kara's ghost, Dinda insists she heard her voice and knows it was her. Putra asks if she's saying Kara became a ghost and killed Wisnu, and Dinda admits it sounds crazy, but he warns her not to say such things around Kara's mother. She pleads for his help, saying they need to find Kara, but Putra reminds her that even the police couldn't find her, and questions what they could do. When Dinda asks if he's given up, he hesitates, and she tells the driver to stop. She says she came to him because she thought he cared, but if he won't help, she'll do it alone. Later, at Vishnu's funeral, Putra shows the video to their friends, and Marco asks, if that was Kara, what did Wisnu do to deserve it? Dinda replies, you guys should have known better. And when Rosa asks what she means, Dinda says something must have happened to Kara that night. Rosa insists she and Gary left after she did, and then asks why she believes it was Kara, to which Dinda explains she saw Kara's mother holding a ceremony and later saw Kara's ghost. Gary calls her crazy, and when Dinda asks what if she really is dead, he coldly replies, I don't care, and it's not my problem. Later, when Dinda returns to her apartment, she notices a figure silently standing in the distance. Meanwhile, Rosa asks Gary if he thinks Dinda could be right, but he tells her to drop it. When Rosa mentions hearing Dinda scream that night, he denies it, insisting it's not their problem. Suddenly, Kara's ghost appears in front of their car, and Rosa asks, what was that? They both get out of the car to check, but find no one there, and Rosa asks, what should we do? Then Gary sees Kara's ghost rising in the distance, and before he can react, it flies toward him, prompting him to tell Rosa to get in the car. He quickly drives away and asks Rosa if she saw what it was, but just then, he gets a call from her, who tells him that he left her behind. Jerry turns and sees the ghost beside him, prompting him to slam the brakes and stop the car. As the ghost turns toward him, he gets out of the car, only to be hit by another vehicle, and he dies instantly. Meanwhile, Ari is unable to sleep due to the noises coming from the next room. He steps out to confront the neighbor, but in the hallway, he sees a figure standing. He knocks on the door and asks them to open it. A woman emerges and asks what the matter is, and he tells her that she is being too loud and that people are trying to sleep. As he turns to return to his apartment, the figure begins to follow him. Alarmed, he rushes to his door and calls for Dinda to open it, while the ghost continues approaching. As it gets closer, Ari panics and runs, eventually hiding behind a wall. After a short while, Dinda comes out, and upon hearing her, Ari runs to her and urges her to go back inside. He quickly locks the door behind them, but as he turns around, the ghost lunges at him. Dinda runs out, only to see him collapsing to the floor. Just then, there is a knock on the door. Dinda answers it and finds Rosa standing there. And before Dinda can ask what happened, Rosa hugs her while crying. Dinda asks Rosa if she remembers what Kara was wearing that night and the woman she hit earlier, to which Rosa nods, but says that when they got out of the car, there was no one there. Dinda replies, but Gary was terrified and drove off alone, to which Rosa asks, but what did Gary do wrong? Saying first it was Vishnu, now Gary, and asks who's next. Dinda tries to calm her down, and in that moment, Her eyes fall on the item Wang had given to Ari. The next day, they visit Wang, who tells them about Hong Gai, a woman who commits suicide in a red dress, so her spirit could return for revenge, and it won't rest until her vengeance is complete. She warns that unless they find her body soon, each of them will die. Dinda says that's exactly why they came to her, and Wang replies that she can't help them find Kara, but they can ask her. She then asks, "Who among you was closest to her?" And Dinda answers, "It's me." Wang begins a ritual, and suddenly visions overwhelm Dinda. She sees Kara being physically assaulted by a man, screaming for help. The horrifying images continue as she watches Kara drowning, and someone cruelly shutting a hatch over her. Dinda jolts awake, soaked in water, and as she gets up, we see Wang behind her, possessed by the spirit. Wang lunges at her, but Putra pushes her aside just in time. Rosa tries to run, but Wang makes her fall, grabs her leg, and then breaks her foot. She then repeatedly begins stabbing her in the back until Dinda intervenes and knocks Wang down, but Wang vanishes. Dinda quickly checks on Rosa, who looks up in horror at Wang, who leaps onto Dinda. Dinda struggles, crashing onto a table, and the impact snaps Wang out of the possession. She breathlessly tells them, "What you seek is where it all began," but without warning, she attacks Dinda again. Putra strikes her with a chair, but he is horrified to see that it does not affect her. Wang then turns on him and lunges, only to crash out of the window, and then plunges from the balcony below. Rosa is rushed to the hospital, while Dinda and Gary go to Kara's apartment, where they're met with darkness and an overwhelming foul stench. Dinda cautiously opens the door to Kara's room, and to their horror, they see Kara's mother's lifeless body hanging from the ceiling. The shock leaves them visibly shaken and terrified, and they realize it's her mother's spirit that has been haunting them. The next day, they cremate Kara's mother with full rituals, honoring her with the respect she deserved. On their way back, Dinda gives him Kara's locket, saying she knows he and Kara had matching ones. She asks if he still wears his, and he replies that he's kept it at home ever since Kara passed away. He then apologizes to Dinda, saying that if he had been there that night, none of this would have happened. But Dinda tells him it wasn't his fault, and that she should have stayed by Kara's side that night. He then asks what really happened that night, and she explains that they had been drinking at Kara's apartment before their plan to go to the club, but things started getting blurry for her. She tells him how Wisnu tried to take advantage of her in the washroom, but she somehow managed to escape, and she hasn't seen Kara since that night. Putra asks why she never reported Visnu for what he did, and she says she didn't have any evidence, and besides, she just wants to forget the whole thing. He then asks if she saw Kara when she left the apartment, but Dinda says she didn't. Putra wonders if Kara might have been with Marco, and Dinda suddenly remembers seeing Kara falling onto Marco that night. She tells him that during the ritual at Wang's place, she saw Kara and could feel everything she went through, and now she knows for sure it was Marco who helped her. Later, Dinda says that Marco needs to be held accountable for what he did, but Putra says he wants her to forget everything and let him put an end to this himself. That night, Dinda tries to call Rosa, but when Rosa checks her phone, she is horrified to see Kara's name on the screen. Just then, the ghost presses down on her. Panic sets in as she screams for help, but her bed begins to recline on its own, trapping her slowly. Suddenly, the ghost of Kara's mother grabs the bed and folds it shut, brutally killing Rosa in the process. Meanwhile, the ghost attacks Dinda in the bathroom, forcing her underwater in the bathtub as it tries to drown her. Dinda catches a glimpse of the spirit now possessing Ari. Summoning her strength, she manages to push him away and pull herself out of the tub. Ari suddenly attacks her again, but Dinda quickly dodges and wraps it tightly around him until he finally stops struggling and begins to calm down. Dinda calls Putra and tells him that they're all going to die if they don't find Kara soon, and that she doesn't know what else to do. Putra urges her to hang on and says he's coming right away. But just then, Dinda's attention goes to the water dripping from the tap, and something clicks. She tells Putra that she thinks she knows where Kara is and asks him to meet her at Kara's apartment. Dinda arrives at Kara's apartment and turns on the tap, but it only lets out a strange gurgling noise. However, As she turns away, dirty water suddenly begins pouring from the faucet before stopping abruptly. Curious and uneasy, she notices strands of hair stuck in the tap, and when she pulls on them, a thick clump of hair comes out. Then, as she slowly looks up, her eyes widen in horror as there's a faint, human-shaped mark on the ceiling directly above her. Dinda quickly rushes to the rooftop, where she discovers Kara's lifeless body floating in a large water tank. Overwhelmed, she breaks down in tears. When Putra arrives, she tells him that she found Kara. She then notices a locket clutched in Kara's hand, and as she pulls it out, she realizes it's Putra's locket, just before he strikes her with something, causing her to fall into the tank. Shocked, Dinda asks Putra why he's doing this, but he silently closes the hatch of the tank. Terrified, she screams for him to open it, then tearfully apologizes to Kara. But to her horror, Kara suddenly turns to face her, and the scene cuts to black. It is then revealed that Kara had been ignoring Putra's calls that night. After the party, when he showed up at her apartment, he found Marco asleep in the bedroom. Assuming she was cheating on him, he stormed into the bathroom in a rage, but before Kara could explain, he turned to leave. Desperate, she reached out for help, but in his anger, he shoved her away, causing her head to hit the edge of the bathtub, killing her instantly. Dinda pleads with Putra to open the hatch, but he tells her it's too late, admitting he was wrong and that he loved Kara too much. But Dinda replies that if he truly loved her, he wouldn't have done any of this. Putra insists it was Kara who drove him to it, but Dinda tells him he's wrong, as Kara would never betray him, and asks, "What did I ever do to deserve this?" She promises she won't tell anyone. Marco arrives and urges Putra to stop, saying he doesn't want this to happen again. Putra confronts him, accusing him of raping Kara, but Marco pleads, "How many more people have to die?" He then heads to help Dinda, but Putra stops him, warning that he could be exposed. But Dinda reveals that it was Putra who killed Kara and framed Marco. It's then revealed that when Marco woke up, he found Kara's lifeless body lying on the bed. Moments later, Putra entered the room and furiously asks what had happened between them. Enraged, he began beating Marco, then took out his phone to call the police. Panicking, Marco stopped him and said he would take full responsibility, to which Putra paused, then coldly said, "If I were you, I'd get rid of her body right now." In the end, the two of them worked together to dispose of Kara's body, throwing it into the water tank. Furious, Marco lunges at Putra, beating him violently and knocking him to the ground. He grabs a knife, ready to kill him, but at the last moment, he hesitates and spares his life. Marco then rushes to save Dinda, but Putra intercepts him and throws him down, killing him instantly. Meanwhile, Dinda loses consciousness, her body convulsing in the water, but her eyes snap open and she sees Kara slowly approaching her through the water. As Putra is in the middle of disposing of Marco's body, the water tank suddenly begins to shake violently. The hatch then bursts open with a powerful surge of water, and the entire tank crashes on the floor. Putra watches in horror as Dinda, now possessed by Kara's spirit, emerges from the fallen tank. She slowly gets to her feet, her presence eerie and unnatural. Terrified, he tries to escape, but he finds her already standing there. Panicking, he turns to run, but she slams the door shut with immense force, crushing his leg. As he writhes in pain, she throws him back onto the rooftop. Scared, he tries to flee, but she grabs a knife and begins advancing toward him, and then stabs him in the chest, causing him to scream in agony. Pleading for his life, Putra begs her to stop, and Dinda momentarily regains control, struggling against Kara's spirit. But Putra yanks the knife from his chest and stabs Dinda, causing her to collapse. As he prepares to finish her off, Dinda weakly urges him to stop, saying, "This isn't you." In that moment, Kara's ghost silently approaches from behind, climbs onto his back, and after a while, she pulls him away from Dinda. With supernatural strength, she lifts him into the air and, in one final act of vengeance, hurls him off the rooftop to his death. In the final scene, Kara's urn is placed beside her mother's, bringing her to rest with her family, and we see that Wong has recovered. The three of them silently leave, and a sense of closure settles in. and the film comes to an end.